Inside Texas Football YouTube channel powered by InsideTexas.com. I'm Joe Cook. We got a quintet of Inside Texas contributors today, including a newbie over in your top right corner. But we got our normal crew. We have Eric Naline, we got Drew Kelson, we got Justin Wells. I'm Joe Cook. We also have James Hayden, who is joining us this year. He is helping us a lot with social media, but he also understands the game really well, and he is part of our effort to help us get to 10,000 subscribers. So make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and also make sure you head to InsideTexas.com. Use the promo code Kickoff24, get 50% off an annual subscription. This promo will not last. It will not last to the upcoming game. So we need you to go to InsideTexas.com if you have not gotten there yet to come and join us, get the best inside info on the market. So 3 days away. Eric, how exciting is this? Just getting this close to game day and making sure that we are just approaching game day without a hitch, because Steve Sarkisian said today on the SEC media teleconference, no injuries aside from the ones that we already know about. Everybody he plans to have available on Saturday will be available. We're almost in kind of a holding pattern. So we're almost to the point where it's just like, all right, let's get kickoff going. Let's get the excitement here.
Yeah, that question is better served to a fan. Maybe James Hayden. He's not jaded by the business yet. To where the season, a lot comes with the season. It's fun when the games are on, like during the game. If you're not, as long as you're not on the Inside Texas game thread, the games themselves are fun. But everything after that, they could win by 35, and it doesn't matter. It wasn't good enough. It's just a stressful time. The season is stressful if this is what you do for a living. But I do remember the days of being a fan, and I look forward to it. You know, the game Texas played at Ohio State, where Drew down there made some huge plays. That was the most locked in I've ever been on a sporting event in my entire life. I couldn't sleep that night. At work, all I did was listen to the radio, sports talk radio, and I hate sports talk radio, but I would take anything I could get. So I imagine people still feel that way. But yeah, you got to ask a fan how they feel about it. It's a whole lot different. I am excited for the 3 hours on Saturday. Everything else between now and after that, oh man, let's just get it going and power up.
James, got to introduce you. You got people asking, who's the new kid? You are an Austin native. You've got obviously some Texas roots, some Big Blue Nation roots. It's that big old basketball over your left shoulder illustrates. But you've been helping us out on social media. We appreciate that a lot. But you also have been just a longtime fan and attentive follower of Texas football. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for coming in. And just what's kind of your expectation? You've been following college football for a while. You've been alongside the Smokes over at 365 Sports. Mm-hmm. Those guys know what they're talking about when it comes to football in the state of Texas. They trusted you to be involved in their channel. We've got you involved with our channel now and on social media. So just curious, as a longtime follower of Texas sports and Texas football, what are you ready for this season?
Yeah, I mean, this season, I'm really excited for how the offense is going to look, just completely reshaped at receiving core. Obviously, the running backs as a result of injury, and then, a successful season from Jonathan Brooks and him heading off to the NFL. So I'm really just excited to see how Sark will plug these guys into his offense and, like, how the execution will be. And I just look forward to seeing all the guys that are going to get in Saturday, assuming Colorado State game goes as planned. But I'm probably most excited about the receiving core and just seeing if the offense can keep up with last year's pace or maybe even exceed it.
You've been posting a lot of different graphics over on Inside Texas, and we've had to kind of shift them a little bit, Justin. We've had Matthew Golden moving up. We've had Silas Bolding moving between places. Isaiah Bond has had a certain spot. But we anticipate, 6, maybe even 7, depending on what Ryan Niblett can do. But this year seems to be largely dependent on what the Texas receivers are able to do in the passing game for what we expect from Quinn Ewers. Am I off on that? What do you think about that front?
I don't think there's a number one receiver this year. I think it's going to be an aggregate, almost like Moneyball. I think it's going to be so divided that balance is going to make this offense better. And now, Sark has talked about a 6 wide receiver depth chart, potentially 7 with Ryan Niblett. I'll believe it when I see it, and I think we're going to see it, no question. But he plays with a short bench for a long time, so you're going to see Sark kind of get out of his comfort zone a little bit to make sure a lot of these guys get reps and understand, get timing down with Ewers and not try to show too much. And so I think the wide receiver room, you lose your top 3 guys to the NFL, all made rosters, and you completely change it over. But, man, the amount of speed that has been added to that room is unbelievable. The experience in that room is solid. The youth in that room that's chomping at the bit is solid. To me, it's almost like a powder keg of success. I don't think there's a number one receiver at Texas this year. I think there's 5 or 6 guys that can hold that mantle. And to me, that's going to be better long-term throughout the season.
Drew, I know before we got on here, you and I were probably watching Spencer Arrighetti having a great start. But when you're thinking about just being in that locker room and just getting ready for Saturday, as someone who has been there before, what is that like?
Guys, this is the only time of year where I get my real fix. I know everyone loves offseason and recruiting, and Justin does a great job. Inside Texas does a great job. But for me, I live vicariously through this team, not just any player, any position. If you look at younger freshmen, I've been a freshman, I've been a sophomore, I've been a backup, I've been a starter, I've been benched, I've been hurt. I get to connect with these players in each and every way. And the adrenaline, the emotions, the fire, the passion, everything that goes into this is the only time of year on Saturdays where I get to feel that again. There's nothing else in life that replaces that feeling of going out, lining up after you've busted your ass all offseason to go in and put out just a great performance and play well with your teammates. So there's just no way to really describe how I'm feeling right now. It's exciting. As a player, you come prepared to do it. You come to Texas to work and to prepare to play these games. So you don't get too overhyped. You kind of stay composed and everything else, but I can't help it, and I'm not at risk of anything. So for me, I'm just looking forward to everything that this season is gonna entail. I'm looking forward to our linebackers and what they do this year, replacing Jaden Ford and actually Anthony Hill. I'm really looking forward to what we get to put out on the field this year. Yeah, for me, I'm feeling it all, and I get to experience this in a different way than I think everybody else does. And it's exciting right now.
So to get going, we're gonna have some fun, and we got to put the young guy on the spot. What's the first offensive play on Saturday? Who will score the first touchdown of the season? Weston Carls, thank you for the question. James, you're up, man. We got to put you on the spot. You're batting
Don't
lead
get this wrong, Jamerson.
What do you think about this
Don't
one?
get this wrong.
All right, Weston, my go-to, and let's not do any prop bets on what I tell you. In the state of Texas, we cannot do that still, so I can't tell you to do that. But I'm going to say we're going to go hot over the top. I think Sark's going to want to just get on Colorado State's head pretty quick. And then I think I'm thinking Isaiah Bond speeds by someone. And then I'm going to say Jaden Blue punches in the first touchdown of the year. That's my prediction.
I like that. Those are safe bets. I'm going to go Jaden Blue for both. I'm going to say Jaden Blue gets a handoff pretty early. I'm going to say Jaden Blue punches it in pretty late. Eric, you're up next. What do you think on your answer to these two questions?
Yeah, if they line up on the left hash, I'll go with outside zone or an outside zone, throw to the backside on Bond on the slant. If it's the right hash, we'll go with the inside zone. But first touchdown and most touchdowns this season, I'd go with Jaden Blue. That seems to be a safe bet.
I agree with that.
I was talking to one of Drew's old teammates, Selvin Young, last week, and we both talked about how he could be a good goal line runner just because, sometimes being small down there actually helps you get in if you got good vision and see it first. or see it quickly, and you've got the acceleration and burst to get there, and of course he creates power with that acceleration. So I think Jane could actually be a sneaky good goal line running back. Selvin's in agreement. We're going to get Selvin on the show soon, I believe. But Jane Blue scores most touchdowns this season, so I might as well predict him to go with the first one as well.
Drew, you're up next. What are your predictions on these two questions?
It really depends on how we want to get open, but the two names that come to mind for me, well, one name that comes, I want to see Juan Davis get in. It's not even who I think will get in. It's who I want to see. Like we open the season with. It's like, hey, we can find this guy a touchdown. Unless it's an explosive play or we just hit it from over the top, I do think if we sustain a drive, we could get something that just another unexpected person. And I think Juan Davis is probably more expected for those of us who've been tapped into IT. But everybody else is just going to be obvious. So I think Juan Davis will get that first smell of the end zone to start the season.
Justin, you're fifth and best for last, I guess, on this front. What do you think on this one?
Yeah, my best guess is I've been able to watch my son playing this season out on PlayStation. He is playing the 2024 season as the Longhorns right now. So I know already what's going to happen. I've already watched the Colorado State game. Guys, it's a good game. We had a lot of fun that night. I think it's going to be a jet sweep to Bond. He opens up with Bond, and he takes that joker 75 yards, 70 yards the other way. I think it's a jet sweep. I think the crowd goes crazy. And so it's going to be Bond on the first play, Bond with the first touchdown. But I agree with Eric. Jaden Blue is going to lead this team in scores.
I like that one a lot. We're going to get to viewer comments in just a second. But before we get there, got to give some love to our sponsor. That is Laura Baker. Laura Baker, if you are looking for a house in the Central Texas area, 210-254-512 in between. You need to call Laura Baker. She is a member of the elite Andy Allen team. She will help you out. 512-784-0505. And that's not just north and south. That'll help you in the east to west. So maybe all the way to Mason, maybe all the way to Bastrop, Giddings, anywhere between those train tracks, which I know Eric knows a lot about. Give Laura Baker a call, 512-784-0505. Call Laura Baker, longtime Longhorn, longtime friend of Inside Texas. She will help you find the Central Texas home of your dreams. Got to go to one of our really good friends, LC, obviously someone you see on this channel a lot. Wells, this one is pointed straight at you. Which current non-starter on campus, not named Arch, have the highest valued trading card when they retire? And James, you're going to get next on this one. I don't know if you're in on the hobby. I'm not. I have like one or two. I got a Bob Feller signed somewhere back at home, which maybe I should not have revealed. But Justin, I know you're big on the hobby. Got to give some love to our guy LC. But answer to this question: what have you got?
Yeah, this is actually a good question. Quinn Ewers, listen, when it comes to football, it's about quarterbacks. It's about quarterbacks. And it says non-starter. There's no non-starters. So not going to happen.
He's a starter. Oh,
I know, but I mean,
you got two big like groans right away when you have a Manning. Oh,
it says not named Arch.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah,
fair
not
enough.
named Arch. Like, the football cards are about quarterbacks. That's the excitement.
It says non-starter.
Yeah, okay.
Yours is a starter.
Well, I don't want to say Trey Owens, but like I was trying to say, the quarterback position drives that market. It's all about quarterbacks or people that score touchdowns. Defenders rarely get much love. It's usually maybe a running back, a receiver, but it's usually a quarterback. And so can't go Arch. Obviously can't go Quinn, which I think Quinn would be your guy, but he's not a starter. I don't want to go Trey Owens just yet. KJ Lacey isn't on campus just yet. And so I'll say Ryan Wingo. Wingo's going to be a potential. I don't know if he's a starter or not. We don't know. I don't think he is right now. So if that's what the huffing was for, Joe, I'm not sure. But yeah, that's that. I'll go with that. I was trying to have some fun with it, but never mind.
Hey, James, are you big on the hobby? And if so, I'm just kind of curious what your answer to this question might be.
I mean, I collected baseball cards as a kid, like the Topps ones, but he kind of took both the answers I was thinking. I was going to say Trey Owens, and then I do like Wingo. I think both of those guys, like I think Owens in a couple years, and then Wingo, you'll see he's obviously a skill position guy. Receivers are usually pretty popular. If we're going not Arch or Quinn, then I think that since given he'll be there for at least a couple starting seasons, I like Wingo.
Love
Give me
that
Vernon
one.
Broughton. Give me Vernon Broughton.
Been like that for a couple of years. Got to give some love to our guy, David Keith Williams. He's been asking great questions. He asked some great questions yesterday, early this morning. But Drew, I like this one a lot from him. Not sure if you're very familiar with Jelani McDonald, but if you are, do you view him as a similar defender to yourself? He views Jelani McDonald as a positionless defender. Not sure if Jelani McDonald did CrossFit. Not sure if you do CrossFit as well. We know Williams David loves that one. But I'm just kind of curious what you think about Jelani McDonald. That's someone who's obviously going to have a presence this year on defense, and curious what you see in him.
The fact that Jelani McDonald, now assuming he's truly like 205 and still in that range, the fact that he's made it to his sophomore season at Texas and still has that weight tells me he'll be fine staying at that weight and playing DB. I came in maybe at 205 minimum, and by my second year, I was already up to 215, 220. So I was leaning more into being a hybrid guy, kind of even before I became one, just because of my weight alone. He actually reminds me more of, Mike Griffin was not that heavy when he first started developing as a safety. I mean, Mike G went to the NFL and he was finally 205. Jelani reminds me more of Mike G. I mean, I think while he can be positionless, I think he's a positionless DB, not so much a linebacker. Usually you'll see guys who are natural linebackers put on that weight without even trying very, much earlier once they start hitting the weights and get into the program. So, but I do kind of position him more as a Mike Griffin. And for those of us who didn't see Mike G off, the field, Mike G could line up and cover the slide. He would go out and play corner at practice. He would steal your reps if you let him. He was that type of competitor. He'll go out and play corner. He'll go do whatever you ask him to do. But a great athlete, great player, and just seemed like a guy, no matter where you put him, he would show up. He would hit you. He would cover. He would make plays. Reminds me far more of Mike Griffin during that time than anyone else. He's developed in his body. It's just at a point where Mike G just wasn't there just yet as a sophomore. So that would probably be my comparison. But I truly think he's a real DB so far, based on everything I've seen up to this point.
Eric,
I'm going to use that. My Mr. Steal Your Reps. I'm going to use that. That's awesome.
Eric, I know this time, maybe a few years ago, we were thinking about Jelani in the linebacker class, and that had to do with Jeff Choate, that had to do with need at linebacker, that had to do with a very thin class in the prior cycle. But at the same time, like, this guy's just a football player, and there's a lot of value in just taking football players that I think Steve Sarkisian understands more so than others. We've seen that on special teams, and we've also seen that bear out in how he has ascended to a very strong spot on the depth chart here in the secondary ahead of the 2024 season.
Yeah, they love the mental evaluation of him. Justin, didn't his dad play at TCU?
Yes.
I think his dad was a linebacker at TCU. So, I mean, he's got that linebacker sort of disposition and physicality to him, and willingness to run downhill and hit the run fit. But his body's actually going to probably keep him at safety like Drew. When I saw him last year, and I kept hearing linebacker, and when I saw him, I'm like, I don't know. That looks like a big safety to me. Justin felt he would stay at DB, so props to Justin on that eval. Texas thought there was a chance his body would take him up to around 220, 225. But in the end, they didn't really care. It's kind of like Michael Terry in this class. Like, they love the kid. They love the mental eval, just the disposition that the kid has. He's going to buy into the culture and all that thing. They don't really care what position he's going to end at. They know he's very big for whatever position if he stays at safety, he's going to be big. If he's at linebacker, he's going to be really athletic. It's kind of like Michael Terry. They don't care what position necessarily, because something's going to work out because he's got the disposition to make it work.
Before we keep on going, I like this question here on X from Carson Lawhorn. Justin, I'm going to throw this your way before we keep on going. How many touchdowns will Ryan Wingo have? This is one of the big discussions we've had over on Inside Texas in the past couple of days. Over on Inside Texas, where you can get a premium subscription for 50% off. Use the promo code Kickoff24. We kind of had some predictions about this. Talked about Ryan Wingo a little bit, but to give some love to our X audience, how many touchdowns do you think Ryan Wingo has? I know you had some lofty aspirations, I guess, for Wingo when we put together our roundtable, which you can find on Inside Texas right now.
It was a great question because I think Eric brought it to the board a couple of weeks ago, or somebody had asked, who's going to lead the team in receptions, yards, and touchdowns. And I felt like it's going to be three different guys that just by the way of the room and the way things work out. And I thought Wingo could be the guy that leads in touchdowns simply because he's going to be a big play type of kid. And I don't think he's going to lead in yardage or in receptions in his first year, especially with the amount of talent in that room. But he's going to be a guy that I think some defenses will sleep on early. They're not going to be paying as much attention to him. I think he can sneak around. I've got him for 6 touchdowns, maybe even 7. And they're going to be more big play-ish than they would be like 5 catches, 125 yards, a couple scores. I think you might only see him catch a couple balls a game, but I feel like he's going to sneak in that end zone every other weekend.
Eric, curious what you think on this one. I know that we think that Wingo is going to see a lot of snaps. He is part of the reason why Steve Sarkisian is expanding that rotation, but just kind of curious what you think, because I don't think there's a receiver like Ryan Wingo on this roster. So curious what you see in Wingo's possible touchdown total.
Yeah, I think I predicted 3 touchdowns in that article Justin referenced, and it's just about targets. Let me tie that into this comment here that John has. Jon, like John B, the old R&B guy. It ties into this one where I think Sark is going to have a bigger bench to start the season, and then it might whittle down based on consistency, who's making plays, who's where they're supposed to be. I think without a doubt they'll start to 6, but you could see it whittle down if guys are making mistakes. Wingo, there's always the chance that he'll make freshman mistakes. So, you expect that, but he's an awesome player, man. He's an awesome player. I think he's a 3-year player. And that means he's going to make some big plays when he gets his opportunity. So his targets, like Justin said, might not be that high, but what he does with them are going to be pretty impressive. I think he probably, there's a good chance he leads the team in yards per catch. He won't lead it in receptions. I don't think he'll lead it in touchdowns, but he's a big play waiting to happen. But again, 3 or 4 guys, I think it's going to start off with 6, and then it could whittle down. But if they're all playing well, you got to keep playing them. Otherwise, you're going to have some attitudes to deal with, and probably justifiably so.
Drew, when you were a young pup, who was kind of similar to Wingo when you were there? I know you were on campus when some of the all-time greats at receiver were there for the Longhorns, but who kind of reminds you of Wingo a little bit? 6'3"-ish, 210-ish. Just kind of curious what you see in him compared to maybe some of the guys that were on campus when you were back in popping pads about 20 years ago.
It's funny, man. When I got to campus, the guys that looked like Wingo weren't there. Rick Williams was gone. B.J. Johnson was gone. And I'm saying the guys who actually looked physically like Wingo, physical presence, bigger bodies, great hands, can impose their will on a defense, just if you target them. When I was on campus, Jordan Shipley came in with me. And within the first few practices, he was already – nobody knew how they were going to keep him off the field. If he didn't get hurt at practice very early on, it would have been a completely different story.
Yeah.
We were calling him ESPN 3 before there was an ESPN 3, just because everything he did was a highlight. He was fast. He could run by you. He ran great routes, had great hands. He'd go get the ball. If the ball was overthrown, this guy would lay out and go get it. So when you talk about guys who were on campus at that time who were just – you couldn't stop them from flashing. For me, it was Jordan Shipley just coming in at that point. A lot of the guys physically would have reminded me of Wingo were already off campus. So, I mean, we can't understate how different this kid is at his size and what he's able to bring to the table. So, yeah, he's a different specimen. There aren't many comps for Wingo really in our tenure there, and I think he'll continue to develop.
Drew, what about better hands, but not the body control just yet of Limas Swede?
I don't know. We gotta see. I haven't seen enough of Limas was 6'4", 6'5", and long and limber, took long strides. I never considered him fast. He ran routes. Everything he did was very it was just different. I do think Wingo has a different gear. It's just he's a different player. He's a different player, and his hands make it. Yeah, it's just different.
Better hands.
Washington, Texas, and Limas Swede is, if you don't know him off the field, I think if you look up the definition of salt of the earth, you will find Limas Swede from Brenham, from Washington. Awesome story. Definitely worth looking up, and someone who I think is definitely a role model. Speaking of, before we go any further, got to give some love to our sponsor over at Prize Picks. If you are looking to join Prize Picks, download it today. Use the promo code InsideTexas. You will not only get a special offer from us, but you will be able to get the best in daily fantasy from Prize Picks. So go there, terms apply. Make sure you support our sponsor, Prize Picks. Use the promo code InsideTexas and help us help Prize Picks. Great way to have fun with the whole daily fantasy process. James, I know I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, but there's obviously the quarterback in Braden Fowler-Nicolosi. There's obviously the wide receiver in Torrey Horton. But when you are looking at the Rams, is offense what you're focusing on, or is there anything on defense that you feel like you need to pay attention to when you think about this Texas matchup on Saturday?
Well, I mean, definitely Fowler-Nicolosi, because everybody saw that quote recently where he said he was offered, a few $100,000 NIL to go somewhere else, but chose to stick around with Colorado State. So I'm definitely interested in seeing him play. He's very turnover prone. They do have a talented receiver, but and they do run the air raid, so they're going to air it out a lot. Probably more interested in watching the offense, honestly, and just seeing, while it is Colorado State, we're 32.5-point favorites. Shout out Prize Picks. But with 32.5-point favorites, what do we want to see? The defensive backs, the new guys that'll be rotating in and out, like how will they cover against, that's a legit receiver in Horton, over 1,100 yards. And Nicolosi, while he's turnover prone, he threw over 3,000 yards. So they will be trying to air it out. It'll be a good test for Texas's defensive backs and secondary, which was a problem last year, as we all know. So I think that's what I'm most interested in watching, is how we will fare on the defensive side of the ball against that air raid.
Eric, that interception percentage is something I think a lot of people look at with Fowler-Nicolosi. But, I mean, it's hard to throw picks if you're throwing screens. It's hard to, get a guy on the ground if he's getting the ball early. Horton's going to be the big challenge on Saturday, I feel like. And I know Justin Marshall, his last name for sure, out of the backfield is going to be somebody that Texas has to corral. But they're going to be facing basically a top-end receiver, one top-end receiver, and that'll help them, I feel like, prepare for some of the other offenses where they're facing other top-end receivers over the course of the season. But just kind of curious what you're looking for between the secondary, between that matchup, between anything like that when the Horns face the Rams.
Well, I think they have a good wide receiver core overall. That wide receiver group wouldn't be out of place in the Big 12, which we saw Big 12 wide receivers give Texas trouble last year. I'm curious to watch the slot. Dylan Goffney out of Bridgeland. He was Connor Wegman's wide receiver coming out of high school. I actually liked him coming out of high school, went to SMU and transferred, bigger body. I'm looking forward to watch Jalen Gilbo man him up. That's a good little matchup for Jalen. I like it because, Goffney's got some strength to him, but I don't think he's going to be able to run away from Gilbo. I want to see him be on his hip all game long. But Armani Winfield, Steve Sarkisian's first commitment of all time, even while he was coaching in the middle of the so Armani liked to commit and decommit in the middle of the games for some weird reason. He committed in the middle of the Alabama-Ohio State National Championship game after Sark had been named head coach. We know he can run. He's got good hands. He's got good size. So it's more than just Horton. But, as Paul's pointed out, and the stats bear out, that they like to target Horton over the middle of the field. I think that's going to be tough sledding for this quarterback. We talked about him being turnover prone. A lot of that has to do with decision-making, thinking he can fit windows that he can't. He does have a good arm, but he gets a little overzealous. I think these safeties are going to disguise quite a bit, like he hasn't seen before. And I expect him to turn over the ball a little bit. But overall, the individual talent at wide receiver is a good test for these DBs. It's a good test on cohesion in the secondary. And we'll get a better view of, hopefully we'll see improvement over last year.
Joe, is it Hal Mummy's son on this staff?
Yeah, it's Matt Mummy. And I think Norvell is the play caller because there is no titular offensive coordinator.
Really?
And I think Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma was the same way. So that means Norvell is calling plays. But yeah, Matt Mummy. And let me tell you, that is a guy who looks like an air raid offensive coordinator, offensive coach. Like he looks like he wants to hang out. He wants to hang out in the dive bars in West Texas or in Fort Collins. So, but obviously, air raid influence. Jay Norvell is someone who I don't think he technically worked under Mangino or Leach. He worked under Kevin Wilson. Obviously, he came to Texas in 2015, and we thought there was going to be a new offense in 2015, and we didn't get that under Sean Watson. But this is someone who aligns himself with the air raid offense. He's trying to do that. I think he can talk about running the football as much as he wants to, but a leopard doesn't change his spots. Like, this is an air raid offense. He's got a dang mummy on staff. Like, let's not beat around the bush here. Yeah, exactly.
And a Texas high school football quarterback who likes to sling it.
Yeah, I think he was at Stephenville, right? Does that sound about
Alito.
right?
It was either
Alito.
Yeah, Alito.
Oh, man. But Justin, just kind of curious, thinking about someone like Armani Winfield. That was someone that I remember being pretty excited about, and someone who is obviously excited about Sarkisian coming to Texas. He committed to Texas without even telling the coaches. He decommitted from Texas without even telling the coaches. Obviously, things didn't work out at Baylor for him, but a good player and someone along with Torrey Horton that the Longhorns are going to have to maybe look out for just a little bit.
I saw Armani this summer. I think I was talking to Eric about this earlier rather. But yeah, I saw him this summer because I think he works out with Margin Hooks, and he was down in Louisville just getting himself right. Armani was always a fun kid. That his recruitment was always kind of a roller coaster. But my favorite memory is the secret passing session with Quinn Ewers. Like, we're going to see both those guys on the field Saturday. And what was it, 4 or 5 years ago, they were sneaking into the stadium in Louisville, throwing passes at 10 o'clock at night to each, catching passes. And so Armani had those. I love those former recruiting stories and those guys. And the fact that that's Sark's first guy, watch him catch a touchdown on Saturday. Watch him get his. I'm just happy for the kid because I know where he comes from. I kind of know his background. And so if he finds a home in Fort Collins and does well, that is such a good story.
Drew, when you go against someone who was once committed to the program you play for, does anything change? Does that add anything? Just kind of curious from that perspective.
Not for those who actually show up. I mean, the guy was committed and gone before he actually had a chance to really build rapport with the rest of the guys in the roster. So it's just different. Now, does he, like several other players who may be from Texas, who went to other schools, I mean, maybe he has some type of desire to show up on the field and show that he can do something. He didn't get a shot at Baylor, so, this may be his last shot at Texas. So, but no, you don't feel anything that way. Like, at the end of the day, you want to go down play as many snaps as you can. It has nothing to do about any individual player. You want to go out there and do your job. There used to be a time where those things used to motivate, and they would be like the thing that everyone, you'd always find something to go against. But this has nothing to do with any particular player at this point, especially with these guys. They want to hit whoever's in front of them.
Before we get to one or two recruiting questions, and we will also be able to go over some recruiting questions tomorrow. We'll be back live. Justin, I know you and I will be talking about 14 hours from now on IT Live on Thursday morning. But we do want to make sure we get some recruiting questions in, some recruiting discussion. And the main discussion as we await Friday morning, bright and early, that is Jaime Ffrench. So, Justin, I know you put out the decision preview earlier today. We feel confident on Jaime Ffrench and how Texas looks there. I think I have an RPM in. I think you might have an RPM as well. What's the latest? And I know our buddy Chris Bennett has the unfortunate pleasure of having to get up at 5:25 a.m. Pacific in order to do that. But just what is when we're getting up early, bright and early on Friday, especially as Mandarin has a game that night,
right?
What's kind of the last 48 hours looking like when you think about Jaime Ffrench and what's going on with the Longhorns, the Hurricanes, and the Tigers in that recruitment?
It's I felt like it's been trending Texas for a while. We've been reporting that in Inside Texas since probably early mid-April. They've always it seemed like when he came on that unofficial, it kind of changed the course of his recruitment. In Texas, it stayed steady. Chris, just wake up early and just retweet from your bed. Just get your phone and just start retweeting Inside Texas, because I think that'll be the most appropriate thing to do. Right now, Miami staff is not that confident they're going to get him, and LSU is not that confident they're going to get him. And on the opposite side, Texas, they have some confidence that they're going to land him. Khalil Lockett and KJ Lacey have been really big in this recruitment. They have built a bond, those three, and I think that's a big factor as well. But I still like Texas. When I was doing the preview, I was looking at the RPMs, and there's a ton of RPMs for this kid. And there were some early ones. And so, literally, I want to say there was probably 9 or 10 different predictions for this kid over the course of his recruitment. But the last 5 or 6, starting with the guys at Inside Texas, had Ffrench to Texas. It became even more real in Nashville, I feel like, at the On3 Elite Series, where he was kind of mimicking what we had been told by him and what he was getting reported. And so, hey, 5-star August is still alive. And if they can land Jaime Ffrench Friday morning, that's going to be 3 recruits in the last 7 days, starting with Nick Brooks, the big 4-star out of Grayson in Georgia, Jonah Williams, obviously Galveston Ball, and then finishing with Ffrench. You know what? That's a pretty good month. After really taking it on the chin in July, that's a pretty damn good month. And I know Eric knows this, the amount of questions about how Texas recruiting was cratering and how everything was coming, the world was ending, really changed in about 2.5 weeks. It really works that way sometimes. And so I think fans need to give Sark a little bit more credit. Texas is always going to recruit well. Especially when the trajectory's up, especially when they're doing so well. I think they're doing a great job with Jaime Ffrench. Chris Jackson has made this guy his out-of-state priority, like he did with Ryan Wingo the year before. And I think we even used a Wingo type comparison back in April and May, kind of how we could see this thing playing out. I love Texas' chances there. 48 hours, hold on loosely.
Eric, this one's yours. I think you highlighted it. I want you to take the wheel on this one and maybe even talk about some of the other ones
that could have been blended in right there. It's RPM is a prediction. All right, we're good. An RPM is a prediction for a school to land a certain player. Some call it a crystal ball. We did percentages for a long time, but yeah, an RPM is just when one of us puts in a prediction for Texas to land a player, or sometimes we put it in for another school to land a player. I had the first one in on Michael Fasusi to OU, so that was a really happy day.
And like Robert Duvall said in Days of Thunder, 7,000 RPM is bad. That is bad. We want to keep it kind of low, but that's what Texas is about.
Yeah, we're very particular with how we do that, and we've always been that way. Get out of here before we finish up, before we get y'all to tomorrow, get y'all to Thursday, it's week 1. I can't wait to watch whatever is on Thursday night. We got, I think, Colorado and North Dakota State, so that should be interesting.
Ooh, that's going to be
Oh, boy. We got to figure out Charlie's if Charlie's Heisman pick of Shadur Sanders is going to be worth it. Oh, man. But I like this one. Is Jarrett
Even Dion
Gibson
thought that was crazy.
we'll get him on. We'll get him on at some point to talk about that one. Is Jarrett Gibson more college ready than Baxter was 1 year ago? Eric, I got to lean towards yes, because I feel like Jarrett Gibson did a lot more at IMG between gap schemes, zone schemes. I don't think that means he's the exact same athlete that Baxter was coming out of Edgewater. But as far as being able to run behind an offensive line, I might say yes to this question.
Well, that's the only answer. That's the only answer. Last year going into the season, we questioned how ready Baxter would be because he was making the big jump from running just predetermined gap schemes to running more zone. The zone requires a lot more feel, a lot more understanding what the defense is doing, where the lane's going to be, where the cutback lane's going to be, and relative to their body types, Jarrett is more physically mature as well. Baxter's bigger, but not grown into his body. So I think last year Baxter didn't run timid. He wasn't scared by any means, but I think he was a little hesitant. I don't think Gibson will be as hesitant this year, but his head is still swimming a little bit. There's still some of those freshman mistakes, lining up on the wrong side of the quarterback, some of those minor things that could be ironed out. But I think as far as just, running with confidence, understanding where the blocking is going to be, where the lane's going to be, I think he is more ahead of Baxter than a year ago.
Drew, I'm going to go throw this one your way from Victor Santiago. Thank you for the comment. Why do we still struggle on short yardage down, like on 3rd and 3 or shorter, or even on those short 4th down plays? We know Sark loves to go for it on manageable 4th downs. Tired of seeing this. And there were some questions over on the Inside Texas message board about who's going to be the next Savion Red. Here's what I said. I said, run the damn ball like a man. Don't worry about it. Hand the ball off. There were some others who said, like, hey, go ahead and get Juan Davis the ball on like a Wildcat thing. Whatever. Like, go ahead and run the dang ball. Do it. But I'm curious what you think on this one. A lot of it has to do with the O-line and what their strengths are, but curious what you saw and what you are hearing, what you've read over the course of the preseason.
It really comes down to different things, right? Like the different situations, different scenarios, what you want to do, what part of the field you're in, and the play calls. At the end of the day, lining up and just running over a team on 3rd and 3, that's a distance where you can get 2.5 and you're not sure. I mean, all it takes is slipping one block. So you got to be sure on those downs. I mean, that's a money down. So I do think when you do have, there's going to be a difference this year. When you don't have a feature back, or you have one, but you have a couple receivers. When you have more than just a couple receivers that you're going to go to, when you have more than just certain backs or certain types of gap schemes or run schemes that you're going to go into, you're not as limited as your options. And I do think this year we'll have enough versatility in our playbook and in our personnel to where it just really comes down to the play call and not necessarily as much as the play execution. Will be less predictable on those downs. But it's not easy. It's not easy calling those plays. You have to pick one play to get that yard. And honestly, you can call 10 plays prior to that and get 3 yards every play. But when it really comes down to it, you got to be able to execute on those plays, both on the play call and on the players. But I do sense that we'll have a bit more versatility that will make us a bit more unpredictable this year. I mean, you have Juan Davis, you have Trey Wisner. We have so many different weapons that when they come on the field, you don't know if we're targeting them, if they're decoys, how they'll be deployed. I do think there's a reason why Sark has been talking about versatility a lot when he does talk about the players and the guys that are on this roster. You cannot have any set of players that you can predict what's going to happen when they're on the field. So I think our versatility will be an advantage this year, and hopefully that will get us over that frustration I think we've all shared on those short yardage downs and those money downs that we know we need, especially going into this season.
before we get out of here, and thank y'all so much, make sure you like this video. Help us get to 10,000 subscribers. And also, if you have not done so yet, head to InsideTexas.com. Use the promo code Kickoff24. Get yourself 50% off an annual subscription. We have a ton of preseason predictions over on Inside Texas. Justin, Eric, you and myself, we all have Heisman predictions over on Inside Texas. But to get us out of here, I got to make sure Drew and James, we get your Heisman predictions down, not in ink because this is a video, but just to figure it out. So James, curious who you believe will take home the Stiff Arm Trophy this upcoming season.
Yeah, guys, I think Shadur Sanders is a lock. 6-6 teams, Heisman winning quarterbacks. No, but I like. I think Carson Beck's too chalk. I think Dylan Gabriel's not quite an accurate enough passer. I don't think he'll put up Bo Nix stats. I personally do like Quinn, and you can see the Kentucky balls behind me. That's not even Homer favoritism. I just think Quinn's really going to blow up. And, barring any injuries, I think that, third year in the offense, you're going to see him pop. And like we were talking about earlier, there's just so many weapons, so much speed on the outside that I think he'll have a big year. I like Jackson Dart also a little bit because he has that dual threat capability. But this is a tough year. I think it's kind of like trying to predict the Big 12. Honestly, now it could be anybody in the Heisman, but I do think Quinn will be a finalist, and I do like Jackson Dart to make it. No Shadur, sorry.
Drew, curious what your thoughts on the award for the most outstanding player in college football is.
Well, this player used to be a Texas commit, but he went to Bama. I don't see how anybody's looking past Jalen Milroe for me. That kid is dynamic. If you asked me which quarterback I would not want to play going into this season with his coach, with his scheme, with the talent he has around him and his skill set, it's Jalen Milroe. We benefited, and a lot of people benefited from him not really being poised as he could be in the pocket and as poised as he could be in the offense. There's just he turned up the last part of last season, man. I just think he's a different player physically, and the running element is huge, but he has a strong arm. He has big play capability. And Jaden Daniels won last year. I don't see how Milroe doesn't put up the stats and has the flash to make it happen. Quinn can be great, but when you see Jalen Milroe run, 4.35, 4.39, whatever down the sideline, because he's just a different player. So I expect him to be that dynamic player that actually gives us the plays and the wins that we'll see win a Heisman. So he's my pick.
That's who I picked as well, and he's got the schedule to do it. They beat Georgia. I think Milroe and Kalen DeBoer is a monumental upgrade over Tommy Rees calling the play. So that's who I went with as well. And that's a huge 180 from how I felt this time last year when I picked Texas to beat Alabama on the road on the strength of having seen Jalen Milroe versus A&M the previous year. He's come a long way. Hard worker, great kid. Happy to see it. Hopefully they see him in the playoffs this year. We'll see. But I think that's a good pick. That's who I went with as well.
Kalen DeBoer seems like someone who will fit his offense for Jalen Milroe's strengths. Yeah. Whereas Nick Saban, in all his wisdom, would tell Tommy Rees, make sure that Jalen Milroe fits our offense. So I like that one. I was dumb enough to pick Dylan Gabriel because I think I'm a Will Stein believer. I think that's the next guy who's going to be grabbing a head coaching job some point in the near future, coming off the ever budding the ever budding Dan Lanning tree. So thank y'all so much for watching this video. Please like this video, help us climb to 10,000 subscribers. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you head to InsideTexas.com, use the promo code Kickoff24, get yourself 50% off an annual subscription. This is not a sale that will last long, so come join us. Come join the best Texas Longhorns community on the web. Come and get some of the best inside info, inside recruiting info. There are major decisions coming up that you're not going to want to miss out on. We hope you join us over on Inside Texas. James, thank you for joining us. Drew, thank you as always. Justin and Eric, y'all are the best. We will see you next time on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel, powered by InsideTexas.com.